Welcome to Liberty Blue, the best Rangers podcast in town. I am Andrew Chelney alongside Nick Zararis. We scream about the Rangers so that you don't have to. This is episode 45, live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube, and we're available wherever you get your podcasts as well. Today's show is all about the Rangers versus Devils playoff battle. Today is also the first day of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and we will get into a whole lot more. Nick, it's go time, baby.
This is what you play for, man. You play to get here, and then we get to see what these guys are made of. This is what you spend all season working for. You think about everything the Rangers have gone through this year, the Devils have gone through, all the teams, and that's what makes the NHL playoffs so compelling, is the variance and how little the regular season ultimately really matters. And because the NHL, this is widely known, highest variance of any playoffs of the four major North American sports. The lower seed wins in the NHL playoffs more than any other playoff format. And we are going to see some really good examples of that. I mean, you think about this, the Rangers are finished, I think, seventh in the entire league in standings points, and they are the underdog and betting underdog in this series, which is kind of insane when you think about just how good a season the Rangers have had. This is the best time of year, man. You get to double box in. There's two games on running concurrently. The NHL, like you said before we started recording, finally threw us a bone. You got 7:30, and then 9:30, 10 o'clock. So one will be at intermission. You can go over to the other one and then bounce back. This is the best time of year as a sports fan.
No, it's great. And we got the NBA playoffs, we got the NHL playoffs, the Knicks are in the playoffs, the Rangers are in the playoffs. So thoughts and prayers to my mental stability, please. I beg of you, because I will need them. But the Knicks are up 1-0 in the series, and maybe things are looking up for my mental stability in terms of that. But yeah, I mean, like this is really fun.
Yeah.
Whether if you're a fan of one of the teams that are playing, or even if you're just a hockey fan, the playoffs are the best time of the year. It is so much fun. It is such a different level of play. The regular season, for sure. I mean, teams are obviously trying and they're giving it all most of the time, and they want to win the game for sure. But the playoffs, every shift is we have to win, we have to do this, we have to do that, and if we don't, we lose the game and we might be out of the playoffs. Like the playoffs are just on a whole different whole different level in terms of the pressure and the environment. I mean, like, these are all the cliches
It's
that
got the juice.
this
It's
is. Yeah,
got the
yeah.
juice.
Insert cliches here, but for hockey especially, like I just feel like the intensity reaches a whole nother level that really, like, it's tough to match in any other sense of the word. Like, it is, if you ever get the ability to go to a playoff hockey game, oh man, it is something else. It is absolutely something else.
It's the hardest trophy to win in all of sports. You heard what I just said before about it being the highest variance where the lower seeded team wins more often than not. There is going to be something funky that happens in the next 2 weeks. Maybe Florida can steal two games and make the Bruins sweat a little bit. Maybe the Kraken can sneak into the second round. There are a whole bunch of opportunity here. So let's get down to it. Rangers, Devils, these are two teams that have played relatively recently. I think they played on, I want to say it was March 30th or March 28th. I forget, whatever the Thursday was. It was a 2-1 game, pretty close, even though it didn't feel that way in the moment. Played four total times in the regular season. The Rangers went 1-2-1 in those four games, outscored 14-11 in all situations. 5-on-5, outscored 10-7, outscored the Devils on special teams 3-2. Biggest thing for me, and just knee jerk, like my biggest worry right now is the Rangers haven't really played a meaningful game in about a week and a half now. And it's going to be really hard for them to just get up to speed right out of the gate against the Devils team that we know starts fast. I mean, you think about that game on the 30th, the Devils came out of the gate flying. They got up 2-0 early, and the Rangers spent the rest of the game chasing away. And eventually they got back in it and made it close there at the end. But based on the fact that it's really hard to turn it on and off, and you heard multiple guys on the team over the last few weeks say, hey, we got to get these good habits in the line now, because when the playoffs come, you have a bad 2 games in a row and you're in a 2-0 hole. It's really hard to get it going again.
They need to, yeah, like the one thing for me is the Devil's speed, because we've
Yeah.
talked about this all season, and we've kind of, it's been, kind of the battle here for a while now. We kind of it hasn't been official until now, obviously, but it's kind of been, in the standings. You take a look and you go, oh well, the most likely battle is going to be Rangers and Devils in the first round, and then here and lo and behold, here we are. The Devils have a lot of speed. And
Yeah.
it's up to the Rangers to match the foot speed that the Devils have, and that's hard because the Devils are at least from point A to point B, the faster team. It is up to the Rangers to slow that down. Now, they could get into a race if they so choose, but that will probably end in the Devils' favor. If they want to win the series, and the Rangers are a good team, they have all the tools to be able to do that. They need to slow down the Devils any way, shape, or form. They need to prevent odd man rushes. They need to prevent these these long outlet passes to a speedy winger to because if for a lot of teams, if you give them an outlet pass, a lot of players can catch up to somebody on a potential breakaway. Like a lot of players on other teams aren't as fast. The Devils players are so fast. If you give them a little bit of space, you are not catching up to them. They are a really dangerous team in that regard. They are going to try to create space. They are going to basically, get a head start on the race and say, "Catch me if you can," because you can't. So for the Rangers, the number one priority for them is how do we make sure that the Devils don't create that space for them to get that head start in the race?
So I forget which preview I was reading, and they solicited opinions from a few anonymous people around the league. And the way it was put in the article I found was very interesting. The person said the Rangers have enough speed where it won't be a total slaughter in a track meet. The thing for the Rangers would be, are they disciplined enough to say, hey, we know we're pretty quick, but they're faster than us? Can we have the self control to not turn this into an open ended track meet and play a little bit more structured, especially in the neutral zone, and really work for our offense in a way that's typically more commiserate with success in the playoffs? Because we know, generally speaking, and anecdotally and statistically, teams that play mostly off of the rush struggle in the playoffs because those rush opportunities aren't there. Because against the teams you're playing in the playoffs, they're better defensively, they're faster, they're more talented. So it's going to be harder to get those rush opportunities. A team like the Devils, which is the best rush offense in the entire league, whereas the Rangers are closer to middle of the pack in terms of rush offense, but also middle of the pack in cycle offense. There's your opportunity for how do you slow down a team that's really good in transition? You cycle them into oblivion. You make them work to go the full 200 feet of the ice. The Rangers are going to have to get into those ugly areas of the ice, and they're going to have to make the Devils go the full 200 feet. If that play in the neutral zone isn't there, and there's a perfect example I can tie back to the game on the 30th, that turnover that led to the first Devils goal, where Kakko forces it to his right when there's not really anyone there, but the pressure's coming at him, that's where it becomes a challenge for them. And when you have that neutral zone play, you have to have the self control to say, hey, I know I could probably make this play, but I need to cross center ice and I need to get this puck in. If the Devils have to go 200 feet every single time to create offense, that's going to work for us. If you are in that situation where you're turning the puck over in the neutral zone because you're trying to pass laterally because they're aggressively playing you in the neutral zone, you are going to be giving the Devils the opportunity where they're not going to have to go the full length of the ice. This is very straightforward, and I'll make the simple comparison. In football, it's a lot easier to get the ball at your own 40-yard line and go 60 yards than it is to get the ball out of your own end zone on a touchback and have to go 80. That's exactly the way the Rangers need to be thinking about this is we can make those high leverage, difficult, challenging plays, but sometimes the simple play is going to allow you to survive until the next play. Because in the playoffs, it is about choosing your spots and knowing when to be aggressive and when to be passive. And this is a Rangers team that lives and dies by the high leverage play, both by their forwards and by their defensemen. That makes this a very volatile series where you are going to see large swings in momentum because the Rangers are so inclined to make risky plays. That's what really one of the key components for how the series is going to go is what's going to happen in the neutral zone, because the Rangers are not they're not disciplined enough to make the high percentage play. They always insist on making that extra pass, that dangerous pass in the neutral zone because they have the skill. That's the thing. Do they have the discipline to make the right play in these difficult situations?
Yeah, well, the Rangers have to essentially cycle them into oblivion. For the
Yes.
Devils, for the Rangers to beat the Devils, like you said, it was a good play, and I agree with you. It is a lot harder to create offense when the puck is behind your own net, and you have to go the entire length of the ice to have a possibility of creating space when you're already 30, 40 seconds into a shift. If the Rangers, let's say the fourth line is out there and they've been showing that they can do this over the past 6 to 8 weeks, where they just cycle you to death. They will cycle and they will tire you out such that, in 30, 40 seconds, when you're tired, there's an open man in front of the net and the Rangers score. Like
Yeah.
the Rangers fourth line has the ability to do that. So the Rangers need to have all four lines doing that essentially. Where if the Devils can't use their speed. It is a
Yeah.
lot harder to use your speed when you are tired. It's not. I'm not. You know, this is not rocket science here, right? Like you can't go 100% from point A to point B if you're 45 seconds into a shift and you're tired. Like it is a lot harder for the Devils to create offense that way. But if the Rangers, for whatever reason, think, hey, we're fast enough, we can do this track meet sort of, I'll beat you in a race type of thing, they're going to get dumpstered. Like it is very point blank to see like the Devils are a faster team. They like creating space in their own way. And for the Rangers, if they counter with, well, we can do that too, that's not going to work. The best way to counter the Devils is to beat them at their own game. If they want to create that a lot of space and you don't give it to them, and that is how they create a lot of their offense, well, then that's a really good way to counter that high speed, high flying offense that they've been implementing this entire season. But if the Rangers don't do that, I, I can't see this. I can't really see a whole lot of scenarios in which it ends well for them.
So one of the points I just made before was about the Rangers needing to get off to good starts in these games because the Devils start fast. So in first periods against the Devils this year, the Rangers were outscored 6-4. Of course, that's not the most scientific statistic. There's variance involved, but I do think that speaks to what we know. The Rangers are not a particularly fast starting team. They are prone to making mistakes, especially in the neutral zone. And the Devils are a team that thrives on forcing you to make a difficult play in the neutral zone, which is just get it going in, and you can force them into making mistakes. You think about the Devils on the back end. They've been playing Kevin Ball with Dougie Hamilton. You can expose Kevin Ball if you cycle him. He's not particularly fast. You think about Damon Severson, maybe Luke Hughes. It might not be Luke Hughes. It could be someone else on that third pair with Severson. Somebody else you are able to force into making mistakes. You think about that second pair where you think about Siegenthaler, you think about Ryan Graves. Okay, you are going to have opportunities against that group if you make them work. If you're just trying to skate around them through the neutral zone, they are going to stand you up. Those are tall guys with long reaches. You need to get that puck behind them, force them to turn entirely around and get going into a foot race with you. If you try and turn this game into a 200-foot struggle for space, you will have a good chance. One of the other things in that preview that I read before was the Rangers are one of the biggest teams in this playoffs in terms of size and weight, which sounds weird to us because, the Rangers don't strike you as a particularly physical or imposing team, but you think about some of the guys on this team who are on the bigger side, like a Kreider, like a Truba, like a Tarasenko, who aren't afraid to, get involved physically. There will be a lot of shenanigans in this series. These are division rivals. They played each other a bunch. There was a little bit of that in the game on the 30th between these teams. The after the whistle stuff will be important, and mitigating that means when you get your power play opportunities, you need to convert on them.
Yep.
There, you are going to be in a situation where the Rangers formula this entire season has been close to even at even strength, goaltending, special teams. You need at least two of those three in the playoffs to get through the first round. Beyond that, you're going to need all three going at once if you want to realistically go for the Stanley Cup. I think it was Hockey Stat Miner who said it a few weeks ago that they've never been above average at two of those three at the same time this year, and that's part of why it's felt so jagged and inconsistent this year. Even though they have one of the best records in the entire league, more than 100 points in the standings, they need to find that the right balance of we're going to create our offense, we're going to be close at 5-on-5, We got to slam dunk on our special teams. We need our kill to be the best it's been all year, and we need our power play to be what it's been the last few weeks, where it's been close to that 1 out of every 4. That's the Rangers formula. Those are the 3 components for a successful Rangers playoff run.
The thing about this Rangers team that they're very strange in that not everything has gone well for them. And
Yeah.
yet, despite them looking kind
This
of
team has played Ben Harper for the last month and a half.
they like there's been like a week stretch where they've looked really good, followed by a week and a half stretch where they've looked okay, and followed by maybe like a game where they've looked really good, and then the next 2 games they look like trash. It's been very kind of a strange season, and yet despite how they've played, they've won a bunch of games.
Yeah.
Like that just speaks to the
The talent.
strangeness and the weirdness that is the sport of hockey. Like if you play baseball like that, if you play football like that, or basketball or what have you, if you play that strangely for the entire season, you are not going to win equally as many games as you could potentially in hockey. Like hockey is just a weird sport, man. Like you can play terribly and still win because hockey's weird. Like if you shoot, 16 of 80 from the field as an NBA team, you ain't winning. But if you shoot 8 shots on goal over the course of an NHL game, but 5 of those go in, you won. Like such a strange sport, and the variance of it makes what is already a difficult series to predict all that more unpredictable. You can tell me any prediction that you might have, and I could tell you, yeah, I could see it. I could, if you tell me Devils in 4 or Rangers in 7 or Rangers in 4 or whatever, I could be like, yeah, I see it. Like
Yeah.
all you need is a bad week or a good week, or everything to go well for you 4 games in a row, and all of a sudden you just swept, and now you're on to round 2. Like this is so high variance, so unpredictable. The winning goal can come from the red line, bounce off of 7 people, and it goes in the net, because hockey is weird. Like a lot of series are unpredictable because of that, but this series in particular could literally go 100 different ways.
So you were talking about the variance. So I'll run through it right quick. FanDuel has the Devils at minus 126, the Rangers at 105. DraftKings 120, Rangers 100. BetMGM 120, Rangers 100. The Athletics model has it 55-45 for the Devils. Money Puck has it 57-43 for the Devils. Pretty much that speaks to what you're saying, that I could see it going a lot of different ways. I think the biggest gap I saw was 59-41, and that was somebody who's got a smaller model from their Twitter, one of the stats people I follow, but that person very heavily weighs expected goals in their prediction model. So like you're saying, the Devils have shown you throughout the course of this regular season that they are the better team over the course of the regular season. The regular season does not mean that is what's going to happen in the playoffs. The example I always give people with this is the Oilers and the Jets in the 2021 playoffs when they were in the North Division. The Oilers beat the Jets every single time they played in the regular season, except one. I believe the Oilers went 6-1 against the Jets in that North Division in the 2021 season. The Jets swept the Oilers out of the playoffs in 4 games. That tells you just how much the regular season matters. You get the hot goalie. In that case, it was Connor Hellebuck. In this case, for the Rangers, it would be Igor Shesterkin. Like you said, if you said Rangers in 4, I would assume Vanecek imploded and Shesterkin stole a game or 2, and it worked. That's what makes this so interesting. And along those lines, Vanecek has played 3 career games in the playoff. 2 of those were in 2021. 1 of those was in 2020. That was when he was on the Capitals. Shesterkin has 21 career playoff games, including last year. The 1 game he played in the bubble playoffs against Carolina. So you talk about variance and experience. And one of the things you can have that'll mitigate some of that variance we're talking about is experience. Has your team endured some adversity? Does it know how to respond to challenges? You hear teams that have been through the wars of the playoffs talk about all the time. When you have that institutional knowledge of guys who have been there over and over again, they know what you need to bring to what type of setting, how to read the room, who needs to speak up and when. That's something that the Rangers have a decent sized edge in. The Devils have a couple guys with a lot of experience. You think about Palat, Dougie Hamilton, Eric Howla. They've got a couple guys who have significant playoff track records. But in terms of the stuff you can control that's away from the game, the Rangers have a group that went through this last year, added two guys in Tarasenko and Kane who have extensive playoff experience. That the Rangers coach and Gallant has been to a cup final at Vegas. They have just enough experience. So if they lose on ice randomness, you can live with that. But if they get their doors blown off because they didn't read the vibes right, like everybody, the example I always go back to is the Sharks coming back against Vegas and Gallant just not calling a timeout at any point during the Sharks 4-goal comeback when Joe Pavelski got his head knocked off. I mean, if you lose that way, then I'd be mad. But you lose the randomness, the variance, okay, I can live with that.
Yeah, well, listen, they got Barclay Goodrow and his rings for this moment, right? Like they overpaid
He's the counterbalance. He's the counterbalance. He was on the other side of that. He scored the game-winning goal against Gallant.
That's right.
That's probably the single biggest reason Goodrow's on the Rangers was Gallant said, "We can get this guy. He beat me in a playoff series. Right. Get him on my team now."
Yeah, well, they paid him a bunch of money for a bunch of years because he has rings. Like this is his moment. This is if Barclay Goodrow is ever going to show the Rangers that maybe don't buy me out or don't trade me, this is it. This is his time to score 4 goals for reasons because hockey is weird.
Not even to score goals, just to be the guy who if everybody's hanging out at a party and there's one guy sitting at the other end of the room by himself. And everybody's like, is that guy okay? Did you invite him? No. Where did he come from? That's kind of what the Rangers need right now from Goodrow is when something inevitably goes wrong, because this is playoff hockey, someone will get a bump, a nick, or a bruise. I'm sure Ryan Lindgren will leave the ice at least 2.5 times during the course of these 7 games. When that happens, Goodrow needs to be the one to look up and down the bench and go, hey, we got this. My line has been the best line on this team for the last month. We'll take care of this.
Yeah, my Corsi.
Yeah,
but it's this is what they got these players for. Obviously, Tarasenko and Kane are good offensive players, but they got Goodrow literally because he has rings. So this is his moment to step up in the locker room and on the ice and show like, hey, you gave me this wild contract, and I still can't believe that you gave me this contract, but here we are anyway. Now is my chance to prove to you why you gave me this contract. This is my opportunity to say the right things and play the right way and make the right decisions and et cetera, et cetera. Like this is what the Rangers went out to acquire. So, all right, well, let's see it. Like because everybody loves talking about the old adage of Stanley Cup experience. That guy has rings. That guy had it's like, okay, well. That's great. Now let's see it in action because this is the time. And there's been a lot of talk from the Rangers about Barclay Goodrow and his rings and his rings and his rings and his rings.
Oh yeah, Gallant said it himself.
Yeah,
the game they healthy scratched Lafreniere back in December. Yeah. They go, well, if Goodrow makes a mistake, he's won 2 Stanley Cup rings. Right. So what am I going to tell him? Well, coach, I don't know if you know this or not, but that is in the past, and we are trying to win today.
Now is the time for players like Goodrow to show us what everybody's been talking about for the past season. Yeah. The entire season has been about his rings and about his experience. Okay, that's great. Now we're here. Let's see it in action. Because if we don't see it, I'm fighting somebody. I swear to God.
Gonna start biting people. Okay. Speaking of the decision making and that ilk of matchups, and we know Gallant abhors the hard match for whatever reason. He does not go to the NBA school of we put our best guy on their best guy and we try and outlast that guy. Gallant very much is, I'm sticking to my rules. If I need to win a faceoff in the offensive zone, I'm sending the 4th line out there because they're going to win the faceoff in established zone time. I'm not going to go out of my way to get Zibanejad out there against Jack Hughes, etc. When I was looking earlier, one of the things that jumped out at me in the statistics was Zibanejad and Kreider, not particularly good against Jack Hughes. They got outscored, I want to say 3-1 in like 11 and a half, 12 minutes of play. Good numbers against Nico Hischier. Granted, that a lot of that ice time was not when Timo Meier was on the Devils, so Meier and Hischier may be a little bit different of a dynamic than what the Rangers had seen earlier this year. But that's a matchup the Rangers can definitely lean on. I'm very concerned that a lot of this series is going to end up being the kid line against Jack Hughes because in the limited ice time, those two groups have gone head to head. The Devils have really outplayed them. Some of that is in part because of the defensive work that they had with them, where we talked about this a few weeks ago, where the results of the kid line with Adam Fox versus with any other defensive pair. So you really, I know it's against everything in the coach's makeup to kind of look at these matchups, but especially when you have last change and you have home ice, you really need to be looking for them because that's what the good teams do. When you are going deep in the playoffs, you are finding matchups you can exploit. The one I always cite during the second round of the playoffs 2 years ago, Islanders, Bruins. Excuse me, first round of that series, that season, Islanders, Penguins, where they put Travis Zajac out there and he had Sidney Crosby in hell. The scoring chances were 65-35. And we are talking about Travis Zajac, who retired after that season, against Sidney Crosby, who is still one of the 10 to 15 best players in the entire league. When you have a matchup that is working for you, you need to be able to exploit it. For the Rangers, that's going to mean a few different things because the Rangers, pretty much all of their lines, aside from the fourth line, kill offense first. They are not going to play the most defensively responsible of hockey, which means against a team like the Devils that is so offensively oriented, even down in their bottom six, can you mitigate that enough? Can you find a matchup you like? Can you get Panarin out there against Eric Howell's line as opposed to against Nico Hischier's line? Are you going to be able to get your fourth line out there against their second line? Is that going to work for you? What matchups can you exploit? Because if you want to go far, you need to pounce on those. It's really easy for the coach to fall back and rest on his laurels. But if they want to mitigate some of the problems they had, especially last year, you think about the first round, how that went, where Zibanejad really had a hard time against Crosby until Crosby got injured. Can you find matchups to exploit? And are you going to be willing to exploit them?
Well, yeah, it's a lot of that is, or most of it, I should say, is on Gallant. Like this is the make or break for Gallant right now. At least in my eyes, because again, like we've had our problems with Gallant's coaching this entire season, where he hangs on to timeouts as if he's going to sell them on the black market after the game. Like he, for whatever reason, like hates using a timeout, even when the Rangers look like ass. Like when the Rangers give up multiple goals in very quick succession, he's like, they don't need the timeout. It's all good. All good. We'll climb back. If the score is like 12-0. It's all good. We'll come back in the second period. No problem. No, timeout. We don't need it. Like the Rangers love not using their timeout when they absolutely need to use their timeout. Gallant is such a heinous example of when coaches hang on to their timeouts too much as opposed to just using it when they need to. Like if the Rangers give up, for example, like let's say it's game 1 and 2 minutes in, the Devils scored 2 quick goals, call the timeout.
Please.
Call it. I don't
Please.
like just call it, man. Like I understand the importance of potentially needing it down the line. I understand why you hold on to it in the third, until the third period when things are even more intense than they are in the first and second. But if you get out in the first playoff game, as an example, and you give up quick goals, and all of a sudden, like Prudential Center is on fire, the fans are so loud, and the Devils have all this momentum, and Gerard Gallant is standing there with his arms crossed, he's not calling a timeout, I will throw hands. Like at a certain point, you have to call it. You have to use it. You have to wake the team up. You have to say something, because if you don't, the game's over. Like
you don't have time to wait in the playoffs. You don't have time.
Right, waiting until the intermission to say something when the game is not going in your favor in the playoffs is going to lead to your team getting beaten and destroyed in 4 games. Like that is how that's how that goes. If you get out to a bad start, or in this middle of the game, all of a sudden the Devils have scored 3 goals in a row, and Gerard Gallant is sitting there chewing his gum or whatever. That's not how you win. Winners change what is broken.
They adapt.
If you don't change what's broken, it's going to continue to be broken. And if you wait too long, you're going to have to get a new one.
It's very simple. Adapt or die. In the playoffs, you will meet adversity. How do you respond to the adversity? The Penguins adapted very well to the Rangers early in that series last year, and then the Rangers were able to counterbalance it back. What can you do to answer that adversity? So, two things I wanted to highlight here because I have good numbers on this. So, I mentioned before about the Rangers' fourth line being their best line. So, since they got Tyler Mott, the Rangers' fourth line has a 53% of the goal share, 50% of the expected goal share, 61% of the high danger goal share. That tells you they are getting the puck down low, they are cycling, and they are getting the puck on the net. That is sticky. When I say sticky, that means you can do it over and over again. It's replicable. When you are getting the puck down low and you are outworking your opponents, you can create a lot more quality of offense than the typical offense you would associate with gaining the zone with speed, one of those scoring chances from, say, the top of the circles, the outside of the circles, the garbage, if you would. And then the other good numbers I have here that I found interesting was so Patrick Kane, when he's played with Kreider in the time since Kane joined the Rangers, with him, 61% goal share, 52% expected goal share, 53% high danger goal share, 11% shooting. Really solid numbers. You can tell that Kreider is doing some legwork because when he's not with him, so that would be in the situations where Kane has played with Panarin on the opposite wing. 53% of the goal share, 32% of the expected goal share, 30% of the high danger chances. And a lot of the goal share that difference is made up for with a 13% shooting percentage. So that 2%, that's Kane and Panarin having more shooting talent to be able to shoot their way out of trouble. But that tells you that you really are going to need to be strategic here with how you're going to deploy your lines because the Devils are such a well-rounded team in that respect where if you invite the Devils into your zone with speed, which is something the Penguins were able to do a lot early in that series before Crosby got injured. The Rangers typically, when someone's coming at them with speed, their defensemen are going to funnel inward at the blue line so they're close to each other to try and force the people coming into the zone with speed to go to the outside. That's what we always talk about, where the Rangers want to keep the other team to the perimeter, those low quality chances, shots go the other way with speed. The Devils, if you let them do that, are really going to control large swaths of the play. And that is how I assume most of these games are going to shake out, which of course means, Andrew, the Rangers will once again be going as far as their goaltender can take them.
That's right.
The entire strategy for the Rangers is predicated upon Igor not blinking before the guy down on the other end. If you are going to let the other team volume you, that means he's got to be locked in. No crappy goals. If he's only getting beat on the really good stuff, that means you're more than likely going to be able to go far in these playoffs. If he has a rough game or two, or you lose a defenseman here and Ben Harper's back in your rotation, you're going to have a really hard time in this series because the Devils are so good at controlling play. The Devils have the puck more than anyone in the league. They are second in scoring chances, fourth in expected goals, sixth in high danger stuff. They love having the puck and they have the high end talent to put it in the net. So that means you got to do everything in your power to make your goalie's life as manageable as possible. Not easy, manageable. You know what you can get from Shesterkin. He's been outstanding the last month and a half. Absolutely outstanding. I know they're like 12-2-2 since the trade deadline, something gaudy like that. That's because of him.
Well, I mean, if only Christopher put Lindgren on LTIR so he could get a defenseman so that we wouldn't have to see Ben Harper on the ice and et cetera, et cetera. And, but here we are. Yeah, the Rangers are they are a deep team and they can do a lot of damage, but they are literally one defenseman injury away from seeing Ben Harper. Like, that scares the living hell out of me. If Lindgren goes down, or even if Schneider goes down, or Mikkola goes down, we see Ben Harper. And I can't for the life of me understand. We have seen this throughout this entire era of Rangers hockey, the Lundqvist era and the Shesterkin era, where there's a defenseman on the Rangers that is horrid, and yet the Rangers continue to play them. Like, I don't know why this happens on every iteration of the Rangers since the dawn of time, where everybody knows that Ben Harper isn't good at hockey. Everybody knows that he's very slow and can't defend. And he's, but he hits people, so he must be good. But he punched Corey Perry, so give him half an hour of ice time. Like, okay, cool. Still can't play hockey. but the Rangers are like, oh well, he stood up for the guy, so he deserves to be the seventh defenseman, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, okay, we'll see how that we'll see how his 3 mile an hour top speed is going to handle Jack Hughes if need be. We'll see about that. Like it's baffling how a lot of fans and people in power in the NHL use tropes to defend players
They love anecdotal evidence.
as opposed to what actually happens. Like
They
it's
like
it's
anecdotal
wild to
evidence.
me. I under like yeah, it's crazy to me, man. Like I understand that what Ben Harper did against Corey Perry was good and it defended the team, and I get that. Like it's I'm not disagreeing with that, but objectively, if you watch him play, he can't defend and he can't skate. Like at least be able to do one of these two things. My man's can't do either. But the Rangers are like, oh well, he tall and he defend he defend his teammates, so he play. It's like, dude, just come. Like the Rangers are one injury away from getting dumpstered because Jack Harper is literally skating circles around Ben Harper. Like that's what we're near that, and that's my fear. Hopefully it doesn't happen. The Rangers stay healthy. If the Rangers stay healthy, I think they could win this. Like I think that they have a good chance of winning the series. But a lot of this hinges on the blue line's ability to stay healthy. If not, we see Ben Harper. We might see Libor Hayek. Like we might be getting into the depths of the ocean here. Like the Rangers defense has to stay together.
Okay, so I want to do a little general playoff talk, but before we do that, I need your official prediction for the Ledger.
Yeah, it's always it's tough because I was thinking about this all day. And it's so difficult to predict this series in particular. Like, for example, Bruins and Panthers. Bruins are winning the series. Like the Panthers, might win a game. They might make it a little close. Bruins are winning. Like barring the entire team, getting stomach flu and having
apparently a lot of the guys on the Bruins are sick.
Like barring the entire team not being able to play for a week and a half. I would bet a lot of money if I was a betting man that the Bruins are going to win this series. Not that I would make a lot of money because I feel like the line for that is like negative $1 million that they will. But in any case, this series is so unpredictable. I'm going to say Rangers in 6 because of Igor Shesterkin. Because Igor can literally steal a series at any point in time because he's so good. The Devils don't have that. Akira Schmidt is fine. Mackenzie Blackwood, he's a goalie. He's one of the goalies of all time. Like the Devils don't have that top 5 goaltender that can have a .980 save percentage for 4 games and steal the series. They don't have that. They might have the faster skaters and they might have this and that over the Rangers, but ultimately where it comes down to it, the Rangers could give up 90 shots, but if Igor Shesterkin stops 89 of them and the Rangers have 17 shots and score on 3 of them, Rangers win the game. So at the end of the day, because I have so much faith in Igor, I'm going to say Rangers in 6.
So you saying that reminds me of the scene in Back to the Future where he's sitting in his mother's living room in the 1950s and he leans forward and goes, "Hey, this is a rerun. I've seen this one before." Yeah, that's exactly the formula for the Rangers in this series. They are going to get outchanced. They are going to get out expected goals. Can the goalie do enough? And can you score enough on special teams to make up the difference at 5-on-5? That is the formula. The Devils have arguably as much high-end talent as the Rangers do. The Rangers might be a little bit deeper. I think the Devils on the back end might just be a little bit more balanced, where most of the Rangers' value on their back end comes from guys creating offense. Even Trouba down the lineup, you talk about most of his value comes from creating offense. Whereas the Devils, you go further down the lineup, guys like Graves, Siegenthaler, etc., a little bit more defensively oriented. It's going to be harder to create offense against them. So I am also taking the Rangers. I have the Rangers in 7 games, mostly based on the goaltending. I think Shesterkin is significantly better than Vanecek. I went and looked. like I said before, Vanacek 3 career playoff starts. Shesterkin 21. Shesterkin ended up 5th in goals saved above expected. The Vanacek 14th in goals saved above expected. So Vanacek solid season.
Yeah.
Never
No,
really done this before. Never really done this before, which is the biggest thing. That the track record really, when it comes to goaltenders, track record generally speaks volumes when you are one of the elite guys. When you are one of the 5, 6 best in the entire league, guys like Vasilevsky, Ottinger, Saros, Shesterkin, you have a proven track record of success in the playoffs. I am more inclined to buy into that than say Vanacek getting hot for a week. I'm not saying it can't happen.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's more likely. It's more likely.
Yeah, I mean, like Vanacek is a good goalie. I'm not here to.
He's solid. He's solid.
I'm not here to say that he isn't. Like he has the ability to steal a game, but can he steal a series?
Yeah.
Shesterkin can do that. I don't think Vanacek can steal an entire series, and that to me is the difference. Like if the Devils had Sorokin on this team, just as a thought experiment, the Devils are winning the cup. Like that. Like I feel like that is very, it's not a hot take for me to say. Like if they had somebody like Sorokin in there, I mean, good luck beating that. But yeah, like as it stands, Vanacek is fine. Like he's good in a regular series game, in a regular season game. Like he's usually one of the best goalies that you can pick out of a lineup. But in a playoff series, when the stakes are so vastly different, where you need consistency, you need to be able to steal multiple games. If you're if you're a goalie, sometimes in order to win a series, he can steal a game. Can he steal a series at this stage? I don't think he can, but Igor has proven that he can. So I'm taking Igor.
Okay, so we'll do 4 more minutes here. Okay, what series other than Rangers Devils are you most interested to see?
I am very interested in seeing. Let me pull this up real quick. Is Minnesota and Dallas? I really very interested to see in what happens there, because you take a look at the other matchups and maybe a little bit of Oilers and Kings, but the Oilers are, I think, just going to win the series outright. The Kings goaltending isn't very good, so the Oilers are just going to score 9 goals a game and they're going to beat the Kings, and that's that. The other matchups in the East are going to be fun to watch for sure, but Minnesota and Dallas, that's going to be very cool, because like both of those teams could either get swept in the first round or win the cup. Like that, those two are so strange in that you have no idea of what their floor and what their ceilings are. Both teams, Minnesota especially, is red hot after the deadline. They've been so crisp.
Matt Boldy's been awesome.
They've been playing such incredible team hockey over the past 2 months that, it's hard to bet against them. But Dallas has also been really good. This whole season, they've been good. Like each team possesses the ability to sweep the other and literally run to the final, or both teams have the ability to whittle each other down, have it go to a game 7 in quintuple overtime, and then lose in the second round because they're so exhausted. Like I could see that series can go just about as many ways as Rangers Devils can. It is going to be a track meet, and I cannot wait to watch it.
Yeah, I was reading an article earlier today that Jake Ottinger's still kind of mad about losing to the Flames last year. Like he was talking about this like this week. So yeah, I'm very curious to see how that goes. I love the team Dallas has there. Really, really good high-end players. I'm very excited for the national TV audience to get familiar with the stylings of Jason Robertson and Roope Hintz. The Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn Greatest Hits album is still doing pretty well considering it's 2023. Jake Ottinger tried his damnedest to win that series by himself against the Flames last year. That's a very good team. The series I'm most looking forward to, and it's partly because I'm a sicko, is Islanders Hurricanes, because I, for one, cannot wait to see what happens when a team has 70 shots on goal, but it's against a literal brick wall, which is what Ilya Sorokin's been this year. It's a pure sicko hockey nerd thing to want to watch a team try and win a game with 15 shots on goal like the Islanders are about to. But I, for one, cannot wait to watch that.
It's gonna be fun. Like I tweeted this out a few weeks ago when the playoff tree was in question. It'd be very funny if the Islanders played the Bruins in the first round and Sorokin posted a 90 save percentage and the Islanders won the series. Like I genuinely like, and I know Bruins fans are in my mentions and they were not happy about it, but like it genuinely would have been hilarious. Like as just as just a hockey fan, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not rooting for the Islanders. I'm not rooting for the Bruins. Like, as a hockey fan, it would genuinely be hilarious because the Bruins are such a juggernaut. They won a million games. They haven't lost since Vietnam. Like they are built to win the cup. And then they get to the playoffs, and then Ilya Sorokin doesn't let up a goal, and the Islanders win. Like, that would just be hilarious.
Oh, it'd be like Columbus beating Tampa. Exactly the same milk. Ridiculous.
Yeah. It would be incredible. Like, obviously we didn't get to see it, unfortunately, but I'm just saying, like, Sorokin has the ability to literally not give up a goal and just drag his team to the second round.
Oh, I, for one, cannot wait to see it. It's one of my favorite exercises in futility. I enjoy doing it when it's not my team that's trying to do that. So watching the Stars, the Islanders, the Jets, anybody who's got one of the 5 elite goalies trying to beat a team better than them, I am very excited to see it.
Absolutely.
All right, that'll do it for this week's episode of the Liberty Blue Podcast. I hope everybody enjoys the hockey tonight. If you're going to go check in on Joel Embiid and the Sixers against the Cam Thomas Nets, that's the Nets.
Mikal Bridges.
Mikal Bridges and Cam Thomas, yeah. All right, we'll see you guys next week. Let's go Rangers.